Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News here at the South Florida Conservative News Center. It's January 3rd, 8:13 a.m. It's a new year and a new U.S. policy as President Maduro of Venezuela has been taken from Venezuela and is now in United States custody. Not much is known, but there are certain things that we can surmise from the past and give you a hypothesis of what has occurred and why. 11 o'clock today, when you get the opportunity, President Trump's going to explain somewhat as to what went on, and the truth will be somewhere between the two. So, in recent days, as I said, you've been watching the tension ratchet up on the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, and his wife. Her name is Celia Flores. And they are no longer, as I said, in Venezuela. They are now in U.S. custody. They have not been killed. They were not overthrown by a popular uprising. They were not removed in a Noriega style invasion. They were captured or surrendered and removed. And the more you look at what didn't happen, the questions arise. So we're going to talk about those questions and what we know. And we're not going to, and we also have a working hypothesis at that point. So, what is confirmed? What is confirmed as of now? U.S. media outlets are stating, not that that means anything, Maduro and his wife were taken out of Venezuela. U.S. forces were involved. The operation was framed repeatedly as law enforcement linked, not a declaration of war. No prolonged fighting, no occupation, no regime change in for invasions has followed. This is very notable because if this was a repeat of Panama 89, when we captured Manuel Noriega, you would have expected thousands of troops, bombing campaign, all that kind of stuff, collapse of the government, destruction, resistance, all the things that you are not seeing because they did not happen. Yes, there is a gunship attack and a couple of other things, but we'll talk about that as it was probably diversionary in order to bring off this snatch. So this is not a cookie cutter South American banana republic military invasion by the United States. There are three things about this operation that should immediately set off alarms with these serious analysts out there. And for you too, if you're unfamiliar with how this all works. First of all, Maduro and his wife were taken together. That is extremely unusual. High value leaders, especially those protected by the Cuban intelligence service, do not casually move with their spouses in ways that allow for clear targeting. And with the Cubans, it's twofold. One is that, and also if Maduro has second thoughts on anything, we still have his wife. The second issue, of course, as I've just mentioned, our good friends at Cuban intelligence. For years, Cuban operatives have effectively managed Maduro's personal security. They have acted as international counterintelligence. They have blocked coup attempts. They have restricted access, even by Venezuelan elites, to Maduro. This has made Maduro historically very difficult to get near, i.e., kill. And suddenly, not only is he accessible, but so is his wife. That's not impossible, but it's improbable. It is very improbable. There's no visible resistance narrative, no big gun battles, no last stand, no dramatic footage, no martyrdom. That also should tell you something when you have that silence. Now, let's talk something about the media keeps emphasizing that it was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. That phrase is doing a lot of work there. Maduro has been under U.S. federal indictment for years for narco terrorism, drug trafficking, and organized criminal conduct. That means arrest warrants have been issued, DOJ jurisdiction already exists, a criminal justice pathway was already prepared, and that matters because criminal custody is very different from military detention. The Trump administration, like everybody else, learned we are not going to play that Guantanamo game again. That whole thing, skip the inhumanity, was a legal clusterfuck. We're not doing that this time. This is federal court. Cooperation is incentivized. Families can be protected. Sentences can be negotiated Assets can be forfeited or not, and intelligence can be monetized. This is not how you treat a battlefield enemy. It's how you treat a defendant with leverage. Okay. He's a drug dealer. That's what we keep telling you. He's a drug dealer and a terrorist. So, my working hypothesis, and this is just me because everybody else hasn't really chimed in on it, nor do I care. And you'll know at 11 o'clock what's in it and what's not, and just go from there, right? I would hypothesize that Maduro entered U.S. custody of his own accord under negotiated assurances. That's not out of altruism or repentance, but out of survival calculus. Do you want to be dead or do you want to get out of jail in 3 years and still have the bulk of your money? Consider the incentives. Maduro is not just a narco state figure, he is sitting at the center, and this is provable things, sitting at the center of Iranian operations in the Western Hemisphere, Chinese financial leverage and debt entanglements, sanctions evasions networks, gold trafficking, oil for cash arrangements, crypto laundering experiments, Cuban intelligence tradecraft. From a U.S. perspective, that intelligence is worth far more than a public execution or a regime collapse. Now, if Maduro is thinking, staying in Venezuela is getting increasingly dangerous. I can't even look at the ocean anymore, right? Internal betrayal at the amount of money that we're talking about, risks are now rising over time. Even the hardcore intelligence officers can't be around you all the time. Eventually, you're going to get the janitor, and the janitor is going to turn you over or kill you, which would be worse, right? Because it's dead or alive, I think he's worth money. Cooperation buys safety for your family. Federal court is preferable to extrajudicial removal. Okay. So that's why I'm thinking you never see this, you never see a husband and wife together in a country like this. That's why the operation was pretty quiet. Law enforcement languages dominate the entire thing, and there was no invasion narrative. There are a couple questions on certain things that occurred. They bring up the fact of a tanker, so it could, we're not going to sit there and say 160 SOAR, which is the special operations helicopters and everything else. They were supposedly involved in it. There was a tanker that came out of Puerto Rico, which would make you think that they actually assaulted from the United States and then in. That way, you don't have to talk to our allies in Mexico or any of the other people that would give this up. Okay. So it is very much that way. So if we're even partially correct with this, the implications are going to be enormous, especially for the Trump administration. He is going to say, I delivered no war, no occupation, no real civilian casualties, no NATO fracture. I got no UN spectacle, a massive intelligence acquisition, which I'm not going to share with anybody because who knows who Maduro is going to say he had lunch with, right? Because I now have the sanctioned head of a state removed. Criminal processes are moving along. I'm going to expose these networks as I need to, and we are going to roll them up. Adversarial states are compromised completely. When China tries to pull this bullshit that they normally do, and you say, well, I have President Maduro says that you sent him a letter telling him to flood the United States with fentanyl, and that you would subsidize the loss on the cocaine and the heroin because you needed the fentanyl in the country. Sound familiar? Because it happened, right? And it sends a very clear message that this is power without chaos. You don't have to be bombed into the ground to be finished. Sometimes you just need to be useful. So here's how we really know whether any of this is that I'm telling you right now is true. You're going to see either the indictment against Maduro gets updated or expanded. Is the process unusually is it put this way? Is the process sealed unusually tightly, which means there are no leaks in this? If there is a leak in this, Pam Bondi will not be able to get a job at a Gainesville strip club doing lap dances for truckers. Guarantee you everybody gets one in the neck if this gets out. Is there a delay between or before public arraignment? Does DOJ language emphasize cooperation? Do Chinese or Iranian channels go unusually quiet or defensive? Well, the Iranians are having a problem right now anyway, so it was an ideal time to do this. China is doing stupid shit as well. Ideal time to do this. Okay. These are going to be tells though, and they matter far more because that's those things there are when you have a cooperating witness. Now, are they going to give him queen for a day? I don't know. Okay. But the final truth turns out to be that one thing is clear. This is not Panama. This is not Iraq. And this is not Afghanistan. So if this was a negotiated removal masquerading as a capture, it may represent a new doctrine, one where leverage, law, and intelligence extraction replace invasion. Something we had talked about uh, back before this started, but that was leaving him in place, but doing everything else that we're talking about here. I'll add a link if you're well no, just go to the website www.southfloridaconservative.com. It'll be there. You can read it yourself. So that's pretty much what we have. So let's see what happens at 11 o'clock. We will not probably be back on this subject after 11 because it'll turn into a shitstorm and all the disinformation people will have to muddy the waters for a while. But you've been told what the things to look for will be. You can also go to www.southfloridaconservative.com where we'll have this in a written form if you're that interested and you can go along with it that way. And if you want to turn it into a drinking game every time he says with the help of law enforcement, you can have a shot. So that's about it. It's Saturday, January 3rd, and have a good day. Goodbye.